Call the meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Farrar.
David Bergstresser.
Here.
Albert Hayes.
Here.
Thomas Stover.
Here.
Mark Finkel.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Robert Leslie.
Present.
Robert Fulton.
Here.
John Hudson.
Here.
Carol Ray.
Here.
Richard Farrar. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, I need a motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda. I would like to go into an executive session at the end of the meeting for litigation of personnel purposes. There will be no business to be conducted afterwards, so. Any motion?
I so move.
Okay.
Mr. Stover.
Mr. Finkel, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good, thank you. There were no guests, anybody wish to speak? Okay. No public comment. All right, I need approval of the board minutes. Any changes, mistakes, errors? Need a motion to approve the April 9th board minutes?
Make that motion.
Mr. Hayes.
Second?
Okay.
Mr. Finkel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that was quick and easy. No, we won't adjourn. Report of the executive director. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My report will contained on page 38. I am more than happy and also somewhat relieved to report that past due taxes, 50% of the past due taxes per the settlement agreement have been paid to Fulton County and Hamilton County. The balance to be paid next March, I believe.
Correct.
And all of the current year taxes, if
Correct.
have now been paid, and the checks are in the mail, and they should be received at this point by the proper tax collectors.
Good.
That's we've been waiting a while to say that, but that's where we're at. There is still some money to be received as far as assessments go for the current year. We expect those any day or sooner even. During the past month, things have certainly not slowed down for myself or staff. We have examined the possibility of bringing back a couple of folks that were laid off 3 years ago. I don't have a recommendation for the board at this meeting, but it's possible that I may at the next meeting. Those positions are budgeted. Again, we bear in mind, and it's been a long time now, 3 years exactly, this meeting, between retirements and layoffs. We lost 12 people from the Hudson River side of the operations. And what I am hopeful that we will be able to do, and I will be able to recommend to you, is that I would like to see 3 or potentially 4 positions refilled. I don't think anybody, I think everybody realizes that we will never be at the staffing level we were at historically, but the additional 3 or 4 positions would make a difference. So we're myself and senior staff are still considering that issue, and I hope to have a recommendation at some point within the next month or 2. Also, there are, as you'll hear in everybody else's reports, the things are, the springtime work is picking up, and folks are coming back to the lake. And Mr. Hudson will report on that, I'm sure. And they're coming into their busy season, which is, if I could loop back around to the need to bring back a couple of folks. There's a reason for it. If things get, certainly at the Sacandaga field office, spread extremely thin this time of year from now until certainly into October, and the last couple of years even longer than that, really into November. So there is a real need for that, and as I've already said, I'm repeating myself, but I hope to have something to recommend to the board here in the next month or two. That's all I really have at this point. If the board has questions.
I don't have it.
I just want to say that it's kind of nice to know that that light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming at us again. Yeah, continue to pursue that call back with those employees. Hopefully.
We will, and I will, like I said, I hope that there will be something additional to report or recommend
Okay.
the next month or two.
Good. Thanks. All right. Guess we'll go over the contracts. The annual report. Mr. Clark, you want anything? Or?
The annual report is actually after the entire board package, and as its title might suggest, we do this annually. It contains all the high points of everything that the regulating district has done throughout the year. Much of it is, the bulk of it is the result of documents are produced by Mr. Fultan. And the balance, of course, many of those documents are also produced by Mr. Ferrara, the Chief Financial Officer, explaining the regulating district's financial condition during the past year. There are also other discussion of the status of litigations that are underway. It's essentially, for anyone that cares to read it, it's the culmination of 12 months or worth of board packages all rolled into one nice, neat package. It's available for anybody. I believe it will be, if it's not already, posted online on our website.
It will be.
It will be for anyone in the public that wants to peruse that.
I hope they can appreciate it with the duress we were running all year trying to maintain the operation.
So I guess at this point, having said all that, I asked the board for a motion to approve that annual report.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the annual report.
So
2012.
So moved.
Mr. Snow.
Mr.
Will you cut that out?
Mr. Snow seconded it.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Hayes made the motion.
Mr. Hayes was first.
Yes.
Mr. Snow. Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, anything, the proposal to complete the Stillwater Dam breach analysis contract. Anything new?
Thank you, yes. It's on page 39, the memorandum. Board will recall in 2009, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission provided a recommendation to enhance the overall effectiveness of Stillwater's emergency action plan. And then in October of 2012, the board authorized solicitation of statements of qualifications from engineering firms. And then this past April, we conditionally awarded the project to Henningsen, Durham, and Richardson, HDR, architect and engineering firm. They have submitted a scope of work and fee proposal, which is attached to the memorandum, and propose to conduct a site visit, collect and review project data, and develop the worst case failure scenarios and breach parameters for Stillwater Dam, perform the breach analysis. They'll summarize the study in a draft and final report, and they will develop inundation mapping and reassess the dam hazard potential rating, all in compliance with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's dam safety regulations. And they have proposed to do that for a not-to-exceed price of $26,975. And so staff recommends acceptance of HDR's proposal to provide dam reach analysis for Stillwater Reservoir, and seeks authorization to form a contract for the completion of work, and authorization for the executive director to execute an agreement in the amount of $26,975. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
This may sound a little naive. What's the purpose of this? Serious, I
The
mean-
mapping itself,
Yeah.
the mapping is used
What's it
by
used for?
the district as an owner of a dam, a high hazard dam, that falls under FERC regulation, to identify the areas that would be flooded in the event of a worst case failure in this scenario.
Okay.
That's the inundation mapping portion, and that really is the backbone of the emergency action plan itself.
So
We have
I-
a similar plan.
I
for
assume it's
Conklinville,
used
but-
to see which areas we have to be worried about in
Well,
in
we
lieu of a
we
dam
certainly
breach?
are worried about them, but it's more for the emergency, first responders and emergency
Okay.
personnel to use. We meet with them every 5 years. We have a functional exercise.
Okay.
It's similar again to Conklinville, and develop a scenario, a failure scenario. We work through in the course of a day, the failure scenario, and those folks, the first responders, police, and emergency management, fire rescue, they can step through the process of notification with us. They understand, of course they already do now after a number of years, but understand and become familiar with the terminology and the issues and the concerns, and the mapping will provide them with specific information as to when and the location of certain roads and areas that would flood after a catastrophic failure, if one were to occur at Stillwater Dam.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I see these figures all the time.
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think I should point out too that it was, Rob, was it last year that we had a functional exercise for the Great Saginaw Lake?
yes.
And with all the first responders involved, and many of our staff participated, and all the first responders, and it was, and that,
Okay.
like our engineer said, that mapping is the basis for developing the emergency action plan, and if, and it's the core of it, so it's, you can't truly have an effective EAP for a high hazard dam without it, which is what Rob had already said.
All right. Thank you.
Useful tool.
Good. All right, so I need a motion to approve.
No second.
Or do I need a motion for resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the motion was first Mr. Finkel and Mr. Stone.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty, so have them proceed. All right, we'll get into staff reports. General Counsel, Mr. Linson?
Well, I will, I guess, reiterate what Mike said about the apportionment. The financial disclosure reports are due May 15th. If anybody, basically everybody here, is due to file one, you can do it online through the JCOPE website. If anybody has any issues or concerns about how to do it, let me know. Eventually, I will get a list of everybody who has been delinquent. For the last several years, we haven't, I think, had anybody on that list, so
Good.
looking for another 100% compliance. We have litigation we'll talk about, I suppose, in executive session.
Yeah.
I guess, if nothing else really to report this month. Certainly available to answer your questions.
Any questions? I don't have any at this time.
Short and sweet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we get into the meat and potatoes.
You enjoying your vacation, Rob?
Get ready. Chief Fiscal Officer.
Mr. Chairman, my report can be found on pages 53 to 100. I'll focus my report on my summary report on page 53. As of the close of the fiscal month of April, the 30th, general fund balances, Hudson River, Black River respectively, was $2.8 million in the Hudson River area. It's been a long time since I've used million in our fund balance. And $406,000 in the Black River area. With regard to cash flow reports, which are in my report further on, they will reflect significant, as you will see, they reflect significant changes in the Hudson River area fund balance, due in large part, as the ED alluded to, the receipt of all past due assessments from the 5 counties. That was $2,289,175, and the receipt of $381,486, representing current assessments for only Warren and Washington counties. Saratoga's current amount and past due amount is not due to us, that's offsetting taxes. And the outstanding amounts due for Albany and Rensselaer County on the current side are $1,034,698, that's Albany County, for their current assessment. And Rensselaer County, $542,447. And those are expected to be received any day, and I would say probably they'll be in the bank in good funds by hopefully no later than about May 21st. On the disbursement side, also as Mr. Clark indicated, there's checks that should have been received by both Fulton and Hamilton County. The past due amount, which is the 50% of the total amount due to those 2 counties, that amount is $889,745.87. Again, that's 50% of the amount due for the 09 through 12 years. In addition, there's checks totaling $1,723,357.87 for the tax year 12-13 that are also going out to Fulton and Hamilton County, and that represents both school and property taxes. There's also 2 checks that'll be going out, significant checks. One for the FERC Headwaters Benefit Study fee, and that's $154,790, and for the annual New York State Retirement System invoice, and that's $289,439, and those are scheduled to go out this month.
Okay.
One point on the pension billing, I was looking at some, just looking at old billing going back to 2010. The cost to the district back in 2010 was 7% of the district's payroll as estimated at that time. For 2013, it's 18.6%. That's a 266% increase. Jaw-dropping. That will go through, we believe, 2014, and then there'll be an adjustment. My guess is that that adjustment will not go back to 7%, but certainly will go somewhere south of 18.6. I will adjust the cash flow reports to reflect that, and they'll be provided to the board next month.
Okay.
And unless the board has any questions, that's my report.
What was the cause of the 11% jump? What was the cause of the big
That from the
state?
banking debacle in 2008.
Okay.
And so they maintained the pension percentages through, basically through 2010, so they didn't immediately
Got it.
increase the charges to all of the agencies.
They do the pension on a 5-year rolling average.
Got it.
I think they, well, not for that change though. Because again, it came, 2008, and they made a dramatic change. Well,
2000.
could have been partly rolling average, but I'm sure there was, the factor of the pension fund going down. It's the first time the pension fund ever took a drop like that, even going 30 years back, so.
So they're playing catch up.
Say again?
They're playing catch up with it.
Absolutely, and the pension is back to, I believe, what, 160 billion, which brings it back to banking debacle, levels, so.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. So I guess we'll get right into the chief engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report begins on page 101. April was just about as nice a refilled month, I guess, as we could probably ask for. We had near average precipitation in April, both in the Hudson area and in the Black River area. Saved every drop, stored as much as we possibly could, with the exception of the releases that we have to make to maintain flows in rivers. And in particular, this year was the first year we did that at Great Sacandaga Lake. I would say first year in the history of the reservoir, actually. The offer of settlement beginning this spring called for, beginning this year, but certainly most notable during the refill, calls for about 350 cubic feet per second instantaneous release. And so the EG West Hydro Plant, or if it's not running, our valves will be used or are used to make the release into Stewart's Bridge, and then Stewart's Bridge is releasing continuously at about 350 CFS now, keeping water in the lower portion of the Sacandaga River. That's the most notable change in operation, and I said it historically it hasn't really never occurred before. But despite that, I think we did pretty well. Still got some time to go, and hopefully we'll receive some more rain and top off the reservoirs. Indian Lake did actually crest at the spillway, make the spillway as of last night or this morning. That was the first reservoir to fill. Stillwater is very close and coming back up. We made some releases over the weekend and last week to augment really low flow, natural low flow, and in order to maintain the minimum flow requirements that the DEC imposes within the Black River, within the Beaver River. But we've since cut back on our release and creeping back up again with the Stillwater Reservoir. And the Fulton chain are working their way upward. Always rely upon this spring rain and the rain in May. And, I'm still optimistic that another shot of rain will be probably what we need to finish those off too. So that's all I have for operation. At the end of my report, I believe there should be a memorandum. The board had requested some summary information on the projects that were postponed back in 2009, and I've outlined in that memo specifically in Table 1 the Black River area projects that were restarted in 2010, or at least rescheduled in 2010, some of which have been restarted. But on the second page, you'll see in Table 2, the list of projects. They were kept somewhat in the same order that we had in some of the earlier memorandums.
Is it kind of a prioritized order, or just?
That's just simply the first table, Table 2. The first half of Table 2 is the presented similarly to the way they had been presented previously, in terms of just itemized. The last half of that Table 2 is the recommendation of staff based on dam safety concerns and engineering judgment for a priority for Hudson area maintenance and construction projects.
Okay.
And top of the list, I would recommend is the construction of the ice sluice repair, which we've gone down the road for bidding on that, and stopped it, so certainly I think that'd be the first place to look. Secondly, I would recommend moving forward with the warning sirens. And then thirdly, the follow-up geotechnical investigation.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some smaller projects that are related, as I was reviewing it again too, that are directly connected. The warning siren may need to be coupled, even though I have the completion of the breach analysis for Conklinville, and there is some work left to be done there, routing the breach analysis further down below Albany. There may be some work that would need to be done with regard to the breach analysis in order to assist with the proper sighting of some of the warning sirens. But those are the first three are the ice sluice, the warning sirens, and the supplemental geotechnical investigation for the earth embankment at Conklinville Lane.
Okay. Time-wise,
In terms of
when do you want to get?
ramping back up,
Yeah.
well, we could certainly start immediately on any one or even all three. That's certainly possible. We would have to dust off some of the procurement documents,
I understand that.
resolicit. The warning sirens, however, I would,
I can't remember, what was the time frame that we had for those? Didn't we get a warning letter?
well, we have received letters from FERC, and we gave them a schedule. As a result of the letter and the schedule, we met several occasions with the Washington, Warren, and Saratoga County Emergency Management Services folks. Kind of picked their brain and got some information on their experience, since they do have in the three counties their own system of warning sirens, whether it be for fire department or other needs, and got quite a bit of information, and hopefully steered us a little bit better based on their experience. And having thought about it a little bit, I think at this point we would want to recommend hiring an engineering firm to assist with the selection of both the sirens and the sighting of the sirens. And you may recall when we originally proposed and solicited bids, we went with a firm that could take care of that in-house completely, both the design, the sighting, and then the construction. And I think at this point, it probably is prudent to have an engineering firm, an acoustic engineering firm, someone who specializes in that first, take a look at the valley and our needs, and come up with a plan, and then use that to solicit construction bids for the installation, as well as long-term maintenance of these structures too, because they will be beyond our capability, even if we had additional staff members. Both probably from a technical aspect as well as just the time management
That's a
aspect.
good point. So
You're talking about maybe as many as 18 sirens, and
and we're expected to maintain those also?
yes, we will be, yes. And I think too, the importance of bringing in an engineering firm is that we will have a fairly solid, reliable estimate for things like long-term maintenance and operation on these, which I can certainly give it my best shot, but it's not my area of expertise. And I think at this point, it probably makes sense because of the size of it, the project, the number of sirens, and the long-term effort that's going to be involved. It makes sense to have an engineering firm specializes in that, give us their expertise and recommendation. So, I guess in a roundabout way, we would also be asking, I guess, for maybe a motion to move forward with a solicitation to secure an engineering firm to do that work, if the board were to accept our recommendation for the priority of these jobs.
Well, I know we gotta get back to maintenance. Gotta get started on it again. So, any thoughts?
You gotta do the maintenance.
Yeah, it's just, if we don't do the maintenance, we're not doing the job.
There are some larger projects on there, some of which, we clearly have moved out further. The
Mhm.
Dow valve remediation is one of them.
Yeah, I see
Um,
that.
Those valves are 85 years old and don't offer us the control that we certainly would want to have. They're 100% open or 100% closed,
That's it, huh?
and that's it. And they're not really designed for a throttling operation, and that's really what we would need in order to get good control and good release out of the reservoir, especially with an instantaneous release that we might have to make if EJ West were not to be available. So that's a pretty expensive project
I
and
see that.
multiple years.
How many Dow valves are there?
There are 3 valves.
Okay.
And I would not want to remove more than 1 valve a year during the springtime or during the summer, in order to have the capacity equal to at least EJ West. And so that would require 2 valves for the valve. So at this point, I'm looking at 1 a year for a 3-year period.
With that, Mr. Chairman, what our chief engineer is also saying is right now, he said they're either, and he's right, they're either fully open or fully closed. And fully open, depending on the elevation of the head pond, you're somewhere slightly north of a couple thousand CFS,
Right.
up to 2,400 or nothing.
Right.
And ideally, in a replacement, I think what he would like to see is that the ability there to, he said throttle the valves. For anybody not familiar with that term, I mean, to pick a flow rate in between, a release rate, maybe only 1,000 CFS, maybe what have you, but somewhere between all or nothing. And like he said, those valves should not be operated in that manner now.
No.
They're an all or nothing. And,
No, they weren't
Are they,
designed for that.
oh, they weren't designed for that originally. It's not,
Right.
doesn't have anything to do with the age.
No, there's a mechanism that pulls the butterfly valve open, and that mechanism, when the valve is open 100%, is enclosed in a structure, a shroud, that keeps the water and debris from,
Okay.
affecting that mechanism. And it is actually the fact that for the first 75 years or so, it was operated partially open, we suspect was the leading cause for the deterioration of the keeper on the pin, and the pin that fell out now probably, maybe 8 years ago?
Yeah.
8 years, time flies, huh?
Yeah,
So,
it does.
That doesn't sound like it was fun.
no.
Well, John's been down in there.
yes.
All right. So you're looking to move, authorization to move forward, what do you want to move forward with?
With this
I have to put your
priority,
recommendation.
and we would move forward with at least the first 3 projects, the ice sluice construction, and the warning sirens and the geotechnical.
Okay.
And I certainly would, just because of the staffing constraints, we would certainly
problem with
stage
authorizing?
those over a period of time.
He's gonna get estimates, he's authorizing.
Yeah, that's all, just out, we don't,
Authorizing estimates, okay.
Yeah, we would, for the ice loose, we would prepare a package for bid and get construction bids. We do have listed in there, and I think the executive director might wanted to speak to that, but there isn't a cost associated with construction monitoring of the ice sluice installation.
There is
Okay.
actually, Mr. Chairman, that's what I had was hoping to speak to the board about. Before my tenure with the regulating district, my understanding that the board at the time took the position that staff, engineering staff in particular, should not be involved in any phase of a capital project, to the extent that, we're talking about, of course, design or the construction phase services. And what Mr. Fulton's referring to is specifically the construction monitoring during, future projects. He mentioned the ice sluice remediation at Conklinville Dam. That's a real crystal clear example of where we could realize some cost savings. by doing some or all of the monitoring, essentially the construction inspection, those services ourselves. And I think that we ought to consider that.
That would fall under your realm of expertise?
Yes, yep.
I
Both
mean, it's
myself
concrete and
and
steel.
our operations engineer, and even Mr. Hudson's, got some experience and I certainly have confidence in his ability to review.
I know it was first mentioned to me, it made
Our
sense.
executive director also can, if he wishes to participate, could certainly get out in the field.
Made sense to me. We have
And
engineers that are qualified on staff.
Yeah. I think that there is benefit to having the design engineer, the engineering firm that was involved in the ice sluice design on site, but we could certainly cut back their time and save some substantial money.
I agree with that. I do think there needs to be some involvement and some continuation so that there's the continuity in a project from beginning to end with the consultant. But in terms of the daily inspections or whatever the case may be, we have staff that are eminently qualified to do that type of work. So I think as the situations unfold in the future, that if the board wishes, that we would, when it's the chief engineer's judgment, that it's a good fit for our staff, that we do that and actually take the savings when we can get it.
Well, that, and I think it makes sense to us to have a little bit of oversight of our own anyway on the project. So, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't you work that in?
We can do that.
All right, you don't need a motion on that, just,
I wouldn't think so.
No.
But
No,
we
but
do
we
we
could-
want to motion the authorization for the chief engineer to solicit engineering services for the warning siren?
warning siren and the ice sluice repair.
Yeah, I
That
was
was,
prepared to with the construction bid.
And the ice sluice, you want,
might as well.
We already have,
I know we have to work on the siren, the warning siren system. Yeah, and-
in terms of the geotechnical investigation, that would be a matter of just maybe going back to the engineering firm, the GEI, and seeing if they would entertain the price that was given to us several years ago. So far, we've been successful in doing that with these firms that we had to put on hold, but at least give them an opportunity to comment on it. Once they comment on it, whether
Well, then you can bring
they
it back.
then can bring it right back to the board, and
Okay.
if it hasn't changed, then we're golden. Otherwise, can make a decision based on the comments.
so
All right.
authorization to proceed with those two solicitations?
The ice sluice repair and the warning
Warning
siren.
sirens.
So need a motion to authorize the chief engineer or staff,
Stan,
all right,
Yeah.
to solicit.
Make that motion.
I'll
Mr.
second.
Hayes, Mr. Stover.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's go ahead, let's get started with some of the maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
And do we want to formally have the board adopt or approve this project?
Which project?
The priority list of projects.
The capital project summary that Mr. Boltan put together.
I don't have a problem with that.
Because we'll have a permanent record of it that the board did.
That's fine, I So, we need a motion to accept the prioritized
I'll second.
maintenance list of Mr. Boltan's. Mr. Finkel, Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Stoner, Mr. Finkel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I'll get it right eventually. It's been overwhelming. Any other questions for Mr. Boltan?
No.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, could I point out one, just briefly, I'm not trying to hijack your report, Rob, but just, I want, on page 109 of the chief engineer's report, on the bottom of the page, there's the target elevation graph for Old Forge Reservoir. I know that there had been some questions recently about where the water goes in Old Forge, and I just wanted to point out that if you notice, there's a couple of lines there, that the dashed one, is the target elevation that
Right.
chief engineer tries to hit on any given day, and, you know, and adjusts the,
Right.
you know, your water storage, the operational needs based on that. And the blue line is the historic average. And the only thing I wanted to point out was, if you notice the scale on that graph, that the two of those lines are within, certainly at full pond, during the peak summer, you know, spring, summer, early fall months, are within 0.2 of a foot.
They seem to be actually ahead of the historic and the target.
And so it's that close. And ideally now, we're, you know, the chief engineer shoots for that and maintains that target elevation certainly throughout the summer
Right.
and the rest of the year also. But that historic average goes back many decades, and Mr. Foldham would know better than I do, but I would guess that it's at least 50 years of data, if not more.
Pretty close to it. I think, yeah, maybe 1960, I think it is. At least back to 1960, I believe. Yeah.
That's 50
In terms of
years.
the records that I have that create the graph, yes.
So it's just a graphical representation for, you know, when you folks, board members in that area might actually get a question that the data's there and the records of where those elevations were actually at on any given day are also there, so.
I may be the only one that's probably very familiar with that.
I would imagine you are.
Okay, yeah, I see we're ahead, so I don't have to tell anybody to put their garden hoses in the lake to filter this year. Inside joke. I had a lot of calls last year when it was dry in Fulton Chain, and I told them our backup plan was to have everyone put their garden hoses out there, fill the lakes, and some people offered.
We're really only about 4 or 5 inches away from
Yeah, it looks good.
considered full at Old Fort. I have an updated graph
Okay.
as compared to the one that was in the report, but
Great. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? No. Well, that's good. The Hudson River area. Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report starts on page 137. As Mike has stated earlier, that the summer residents are returning, and we are getting busy with encroachment issues, trying to create peace and harmony amongst our residents, and work permits are coming in quite rapidly, so everyone on staff at SFO has been extremely busy with that. We're still working on converting our filing system, which is really working out well. Hats off to Sue and Stephanie on that one. Still trying to fit in training when we can, safety training, and putting that in when we can. And we had a little sinkhole last month that developed by our well. It was one of our staff members, Randy, was out. I think he was weed whacking or doing some work over there, and sunk up to past his knee. So we uncovered it, and it ended up being over 12 foot deep, 9 feet deep and about 12 inches wide. So we measured that. We made sure it didn't affect our well or anything, and then we took almost 4 yards of concrete to fill that hole.
Wow.
So it's been taken care of, but we don't know what caused it. I did talk with some of the previous staff there, and they said that what they did is, years ago when they built that place, they just brought in a lot of fill and covered up old foundations and rocks and stuff like that. So I think over the years, it's settled, and that's what created it. That's all I have. I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody may have.
I have one.
I would just, had it in my report, but I thought John was gonna mention it, the permit fees, I believe we're virtually fully collected, like
Yeah.
420-something thousand
Wow.
for
Right.
the season.
Great.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
That's good. See a lot of work permit applications.
Yeah, there's they're coming in. We're staying ahead of them, and like Mike said also earlier, is that by me losing one of my staff members, for whatever reason, vacation or sick or bereavement or whatever, we really suffer there, and it changes up our whole agenda that we,
Well, it has to, because
You
field
know.
inspections are.
and I've been pulling people out. I've even asked our executive director to help us in the field a couple times, which is,
Did
that's, yes, he did. So,
I do remember where the field is.
Yeah, that's good. Just reminded every now and then. Yeah, that's why I pointed that out, because it's not office work.
right,
It's only partial office work.
yep.
Okay. Any questions for the Hudson River? All right, the Black River report.
Thank you, Mr.
right?
Chairman. My report starts on page 143, and I guess I would just like to go on record to remind everyone that we have instantaneous information on our website in regards to the elevations and the releases, and so when we do get calls, we try to make sure that people are still aware that the website is always up and running and it is up to date. So, having said that, our administrative assistants in our office are the people who keep that instantaneous information on record, so kudos to them. Out in our field, our staff is changing up their projects, obviously from winter to the summer projects, and we're putting away a lot of equipment, getting out the mowers and putting away the plows. Although yesterday we had a little snow on the ground, we don't have to plow it, but we do have snow. As far as our equipment, the F-250, our truck, is back in operation. If you've been following my reports, it has been out for weeks, and we do have in our budget for this last year to replace that vehicle, and we're hoping that in the very near future we'll be able to do that, and not have any more problems with our vehicles. Field guys are also working with our engineers in preparation of anticipated projects, in particular the concrete repair on the outlets at Stillwater Gates, and actually, we just completed surveying the monuments on the dikes at Stillwater. So they've been busy, we've all been quite busy, and looking forward to starting out in our summer projects. That's all I have to report.
Thanks. Any questions? I don't know. All right. Anything else from the board? All right, so now I guess we need to pass a motion for the next meeting, or can we do
Yes.
that? Then we'll go into executive session. So I need a resolution for the next meeting to be held in Inlet, New York on Tuesday, June 11th, 2013. Mr. Finkel?
I make the motion.
Mr. Finkel.
Second.
Mr. Stover.
Okay. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see everyone in Inlet at 10 o'clock in June. Bringing that Black Flies Are Friendly then.
We need a motion to go into executive.
Need a motion to go into executive session.
I so move.
Mr. Finkel.
And then a motion and second. We will not be conducting any business after the executive session. I thank everybody for coming. All in favor?
Aye.
We had I went to my only fire.